series of personality, sweeping frameworks for understanding personality offered by some of the true giants in the history of psychology. After examining these famous theories, we'll turn to another basic question: how is personality measured? The first aspect is that originally the term personality has been derived from the Latin word persona, which means false appearance with the help of artificial dress and masks, which acting out a role on the stage. According to a layman, concept of personality is just a person's physical appearance. Psychologically speaking, personality is the sum total of all that individual is, of everything that constitutes a person's physical, mental, emotional, and temperamental makeup. According to Allport, personality is a dynamic organization within the individual of those psychophysical systems that determine his unique adjustment to his environment. Personality means sum total of different systems or some traits in an organized whole. Personality is the organization of both mind and body. The scientific exploration of personality involves systematic efforts to discover and explain regularities in the thoughts, feelings, and overt behaviors of people as they lead their daily lives. Personality refers to the characteristics that differentiate people, those behaviors that make an individual unique. According to Michel, personality psychology is the study of each person's characteristics as they make him different from others and consistent within himself. Personality is the product of heredity and environment. A child develops personality as a result of continuous interaction with his environment. There are different approaches to study personality. First, we will focus on type approach. A personality typology is a system for classifying according to a few basic types, each of which involves certain pervasive characteristics. This approach to personality has been common since the days of Hippocrates, an early Greek physician. He classified people according to the humor or fluid present in their body. The temperament of an individual is influenced by these humors. Example, sanguine type. This personality type has blood as the dominant fluid in the body, and such a person is light-hearted, optimistic, happy, hopeful, and accommodating. Choleric. This personality type is dominated by yellow bile, having temperamental characteristics of irritability and anger. Phlegmatic. Such personalities have more of phlegm or mucus and are basically cold, calm, slow, or sluggish. Melancholic. These personalities have the dominance of black bile in their body and are characterized by bad temper, defection, sadness, depression. Then comes the Sheldon's classification. Sheldon classified human personalities according to their physical structures. Three basic somatotypes are endomorphs. Endomorphs have a round body which is weak in structure but highly developed viscera. Such individuals are social and easygoing. Then comes mesomorphic personality. This type is characterized by a predominance of bone and muscles. They are self-asserting, loves risk and adventure. Ectomorphs have weak somatic structure as well as an undeveloped viscera. They are restless and get irritated soon. Another classification has been given by Kretschmer. Kretschmer has emphasized that there is a relationship between the body type and the temperament. The main types, according to Kretschmer, are pycnic, athletic, and asthenic. Jung has classified personality into psychological types. He has given the classification as such: extrovert type, introvert type, and later he added ambivert as well. Extrovert is characterized as a person whose attention and interest is focused on his environment. He enjoys being with other people. The introvert, on the other hand, avoids people. Introverts do not make friends easily and prefer to observe the world rather than become involved in it. Then comes a very important theory, the theory of psychoanalysis. Sigmund Freud developed the theory of psychoanalysis. The theory has 4 vital topics. Number 1, levels of consciousness. Number 2, the structure of personality. Number 3, anxiety and defense mechanisms. And number 4, psychosexual stages of development. Freud stated that there are 3 levels of mind. Number 1, conscious. Number 2, preconscious. And number 3, unconscious. Conscious mind includes our current thoughts, whatever we are thinking about or experiencing at a given moment. Beneath this conscious realm is the much larger preconscious. This contains memories that are not part of current thoughts, but can readily be brought to mind if the need arises. Finally, beneath the preconscious and forming the bulk of the human mind is the unconscious. It includes thoughts, desires, and impulses of which we remain largely unaware. The structure of personality goes like this: id, ego, and superego. Id is governed by the pleasure principle. It demands immediate total gratification and is not capable of considering the potential cost of seeking its desired goal. Ego's task is to hold the id in check until conditions allow for satisfaction of its impulses. Thus, the ego operates in accordance with the reality principle. The final aspect of personality described by Freud is the superego. It too seeks to control satisfaction of id impulses, but in contrast to the ego, it is concerned with morality. There are different defense mechanisms given by Freud. According to Freud, when ego senses that unacceptable impulses are about to get out of hand, it experiences anxiety, that is, intense feelings of nervousness, tension, or worry. The ego may resort to one of several different defense mechanisms. These are all designed to keep unacceptable impulses from the id out of consciousness and to prevent their open expression. Some of the defense mechanisms are, for example, displacement. Displacement is an emotional response that is redirected from a dangerous object to a safe one. Then comes projection. It means transferring unacceptable motives or impulses to others. For example, a man who feels strong hostility toward neighbor perceives the neighbor as being hostile to him. Then there are different psychosexual stages of development. An important concept regarding these psychosexual stages of development is libido. Libido refers to the instinctual life force that energizes the id. Release of libido is closely related to pleasure, but the focus of such pleasure and the expression of libido changes as we develop. If an excessive amount of libido energy is tied to a particular stage, however, fixation results. According to Freud, as we grow and develop, different parts of the body serve as the focus of our quest for pleasure. The first comes the oral stage. Oral stage lasts till we are 18 months old. We seek pleasure mainly through the mouth. If too much or too little gratification occurs during this stage, an individual may become fixated at it. Then comes the anal stage. During this stage, the process of elimination becomes the primary focus of pleasure. Fixation at this stage stems out from overly harsh toilet training experiences. The third stage is the phallic stage. At about age 4, the genitals become the primary source of pleasure, and children enter the phallic stage, a crisis of psychosexual development in which children must give up their sexual attraction to their opposite sex parent. Oedipus and Electra complexes stem out at this stage. Oedipus complex refers to attraction of a male child towards his mother, and Electra complex is attraction of a girl child towards father. After resolution of the Oedipus conflict, children enter the latency stage, during which sexual urges are, according to Freud, at a minimum. Finally, during puberty, adolescents enter the genital stage. Their interest shifts towards the opposite sex. There are many limitations in Freud's theory, as many of the concepts given by him can't be tested. Then comes the trait theories. When we describe other persons, we often do in terms of specific personality traits. Personality traits are the stable dimensions of personality along which people vary from very low to very high. This strong tendency to think about others in terms of specific characteristics is reflected in trait theories. An important trait theory is given by Gordon Allport. He has stated that personality traits could be divided into several categories that vary in their importance. The least important are secondary traits. These are traits that exert relatively weak and limited effects on behavior. More important are central traits, 5 to 10 traits that together account for the uniqueness of an individual's personality. Such traits are stronger and more resistant to situational forces. Finally, Allport noted that a few people are dominated by a single all-important cardinal trait. For example, Hitler, Gandhiji, etc. had strong cardinal traits. Another important aspect of Allport's theory of personality is his concept of functional autonomy, the idea that patterns of behavior that are initially acquired under one set of circumstances and which satisfy one set of motive may later be performed for very different reasons. For example, initially a child may learn to read because this pleases his teachers and parents, and failure to do this is punished. Later in life, however, the same person may read because he has come to enjoy this activity in and of itself. Cattell has given an important trait theory. According to Cattell, he has used factor analysis to identify important clusters of traits or groups of traits that seem to be closely linked to one another. Cattell and his associates identified 16 source traits. These are the dimensions of personality that underlie differences in many other less important surface traits. A few of the source traits identified by Cattell are cool versus warm, easily upset versus calm and stable, undisciplined versus self-disciplined. Then comes the learning approaches to personality. Psychologists like Skinner and Bandura have stated that uniqueness as a feature of personality emerges out of the learning experiences throughout the life. Learning theories have emphasized the role of reinforcement, punishment, and conditioning in acquiring habits and attitudes that remain fairly consistent throughout our life. Then it's a social cognitive approach. Bandura has emphasized the role of self-system, that is the cognitive processes by which a person evaluates and regulates his or her own behavior so that it is appropriate in a given situation. Then comes the humanistic approach. The most popular study has been given by Roger of self-concept. It discusses how our self-concept is formed and how it influences the way we think and behave. Humanistic theorists have highlighted the role of self-concept in the development of personality. Maslow, another humanistic approach, he has talked about self-actualization as an important concept in the hierarchy of needs. People who attain self-actualization are psychologically healthy. Then another important aspect of personality is that personality can be measured with the help of self-report tests of personality, that is questionnaires and inventories. One way of measuring personality involves asking individuals to respond to self-report inventory or questionnaire. Such measures, sometimes known as objective tests of personality, contain questions or statements to which individuals respond in various ways. Some popular measures are Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, popularly known as MMPI. Then is its Million Clinical Multi-Excel Inventory. Then another important inventory is Neo Personality Inventory, Ising's Personality Inventory. Another measure through which we can measure personality is the projective measures of personality. They adopt a very different approach. They present individuals with ambiguous stimuli that can be interpreted in many different ways. Some well-known projective tests are: number 1, thematic apperception test. The test is developed by Dr. Henry Murray. Persons taking the test are asked to indicate what they see to make up a story about the stimulus, and so on, and the answers given by respondents reflect various aspects of their personality. Rorschach test uses ink blots. Dr. Herman Rorschach made this test to study the personality. Responses are scored in many different ways. Other measures are behavioral observations, interviews, and biological measures like PET scans are also used to measure personality. So, to conclude, we can say that personality is the organization of physical, emotional, and cognitive systems. Personality is the product of heredity and environment. Personality can be assessed by various tests